You know what time it is. Big Perk in the building, hosting First Take, filling in for Stephen A. But look, I'm still going to give Max Kellerman that work today. We talking Packers. We talking Donovan Mitchell. We talking Paul George, Playoff P, or shall I say Pandemic P. Carry the hell on.
Me versus you, it's me versus you.
Can we turn the music up?
Mitchell lays it in. Donovan Mitchell is red hot.
I had to go out there and just set the tone. Can't let our foot off the gas. It's going to be a dogfight game too, and we got to be ready.
Good day. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. Thank you for being with us on a Wednesday. Max Kellerman. I'm
getting that work,
Rose.
Who's getting that
You
work?
are, Max. You heard him.
Twisted.
He didn't stutter. All cleaned up, ready to go. I see you, Big Perk. Looking so fresh and so clean.
What's going on, Molly?
Has the day off. Yes, good to see you, sir. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning to you.
All right.
Yes, good morning to Molly. It's about to be a bad morning for you. Let's get this started.
Oh, my goodness. Here we go. Donovan Mitchell. Oh, my God. 45-3-5, leaving folks salty like it's Salt Lake City. It really is. He has the Jazz defending home court against Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and the Clippers taking a 1-0 series lead. Donovan, talk to me.
Oh, man, I let my team down in the first half on both ends of the floor. You know, I let Reggie and Luke kind of get hot. They were kicking my a little bit. You know, I came in the locker room. I wasn't making the right reads in the first half, so I said, you know what, God, it's on me. You know, at the end of the day, it's on me, and, you know, I had to go out there and just set the tone, and we did our thing.
I mean, they were playing desperation ball the whole night. You know, we didn't match it until late. But, you know, I think the positive out of it is, you know, we gave ourselves a chance, regardless we gave this one up with a flat third. We still gave ourselves a chance to win this.
Braids are tight. All right, PG-13 didn't do too much, didn't get going until the end there. Let me ask you this, Max. Was this game more about Mitchell or George?
Oh, it was more about Donovan Mitchell. Is this a trick question? The dude who dropped 45? The dude who did not have his crime partner with him in the backcourt? No Mike Conley. He goes out after what he did last year in the bubble in that series against Denver, where he and Jamal Murray went back and forth in one of the all-time great first-round battles ever, history of the sport. Had multiple 40-point games then. He was incredible. Picked up right where he left off. No Mike Conley, no problem. 45 in the win in a game where they were down pretty big at the half, where he didn't do much in the first half, completely takes over the game. And this morning, that game was clearly about Donovan Mitchell.
Well, Max, let me tell you where you're wrong, all right? And we're just getting the show started, okay? The reason that you're wrong is because we already know that Donovan Mitchell could do this. We already know that he could drop 40 in his sleep when it matters the most because of his history, right? This is more about Paul George, okay? Can anybody find Paul George? I remember him going on a podcast, All the Smoke, and saying that people were going to pay. Well, right now, the only person that's paying is Steve Ballmer because we don't know where you are. And here it is right now in the time where it matters the most, when Kawhi Leonard and the Los Angeles Clippers need a Paul George to step up and elevate his game. Where has he been, Max? Think about it. Last series, Game 5, Game 6 against the Mavericks, 6 for 15 from the field. Game 7, 5 for 15 from the field. Last night, 4 for 17 from the field. I mean, if I'm Kawhi Leonard, I'm going to him after the game and say, hey, dog, I need you to step up. I need you to elevate your game. I need you to help me out. I need you to do something offensively. You got to bring something to the table. Look, getting 20 points, that's a norm for anybody that's a star in the league. But Paul George is labeled as a quote-unquote superstar. It's time for him to have one of those 40-plus nights on average 35 or 30 points throughout the course of a series.
You're a day late and a dollar short. The argument yesterday was who has more to prove. Stephen A. and I debated who has more to prove, and you'd have been right then, as I was right then. Paul George had more to prove in this game. But in terms of who is it more about, who's more important, Donovan Mitchell. Paul George is second banana. Paul George is not a superstar. You could call him an all-star plus. He's not a superstar. 1 year, maybe he was top 5-ish MVP 1 year and he got hurt a little bit. And that's not a superstar. He is a real good, we thought, second banana. If he's Robin to Kawhi's Batman, okay, but he's got to show up as Robin at least. Now look, he had a good fourth quarter. The first three, not so much. He had a good fourth quarter, and it wasn't enough. But he's not a superstar, and he's not asked to be one. He's just asked to be the same old all-star plus dude he normally is in the regular season. He's been unable to do that, but that doesn't mean the game's more about him. You mean to tell me the superstar or the guy who's becoming one before our eyes, Donovan Mitchell, doesn't have his backcourt partner, the other guy who can create for teammates, is losing by double digits at the half to the team with Kawhi and Paul George, who just came back down 3-2 to win the series, who have playoff Rondo, who seem to have everything they need, and Donovan Mitchell drops 45. You're trying to tell me it's not about him? Why? Because you expect it already? Because that's the third time he's had over 40 points in a playoff game? Third quickest ever to that number behind Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain? That means that it's not more about him because we just expect him already at his age to be the best player in the game?
No, Max, what we're asking Paul George to elevate his game. And with Mike Conley being out, that makes it even worse because now you can't even go head-to-head with a guy who, in Donovan Mitchell, who's missing his Robin. He's missing Mike Conley, an all-star, a guy that had a phenomenal last series against the Memphis Grizzlies. Like I said before, Max Kellerman, look, Donovan Mitchell showed us last year what he's capable of doing. He showed us last series what he's capable of doing. Right now, the West is wide open. The Clippers are the favorite to win the West. Why? Because they have a dynamic duo in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. We know what Kawhi Leonard is going to do. When is Paul George going to step up to the plate?
Now, there's no argument there. There's no argument. Of course, Paul George has a lot to prove. If the question is, what player needs to step up for their team to get out of the West? Paul George, you could say that before the playoffs started. But I got to be honest, I didn't think Utah was going to win last night. I didn't think they were going to win going into the game without Conley. I didn't think they were going to win as I was watching the game throughout the first half. Even in the fourth quarter, when the Clippers started turning it on, I thought, okay, here we go. I didn't think they were going to win then, but they did win. And if you take Donovan Mitchell off that team, let's face it, you could even replace him with another all-star. That's not the Utah Jazz. No one's fearing them.
Max, if Paul George would have shot at least 40% from the field last night, they would have won. You know what I did? I watched Paul George last night, and he ran from the moment, okay? Not only was he not available for the Clippers offensively, but he didn't take no type of pride of ownership to guard Donovan Mitchell. If you're not producing on the offensive end, the least you could do if you're quote-unquote one of the best two-way players in the game today is go take on the responsibility and try to cool off a red-hot Donovan Mitchell instead of leaving Rajon Rondo and Luke Kennard on them. All I'm saying is this, Max. The Clippers are the favorite right now if you look at all the teams in the Western Conference. I'm not taking anything from Donovan Mitchell. This kid is special, beyond special, a superstar. But right now, with the Lakers being out and in the position that the Clippers are in and all the stuff that's surrounding the Clippers, all the expectations that they have, Paul George has to elevate his game and help Kawhi.
He did in the fourth quarter.
This is more about Paul George.
He showed, I hear you. He showed up in the fourth quarter. He did. He showed up in the fourth quarter. He did. The only thing that would have been more is if he would have taken the shot. But they did a good job defensively on Kawhi and Paul George. I don't mind Monty Morris taking that shot. I thought, in fact, it was a good look. Gobert made a great play. But if he would have taken and hit that shot, okay, then there's no argument. But he was doing stuff like that in the fourth quarter, which is really when you wanted to show up. I saw good signs for Paul George going forward in this series.
All right, we'll leave it there. By the way, the Jazz are favored to win this series by 3, and the team that wins game 1 in a best-of-7 series goes on to win the whole thing 76% of the time. We will keep Sixers also defend home court and even the series with an emphatic win over the Hawks. Trae Young having a more pedestrian night, as well as Ben Simmons. But as for Joel Embiid, he did his thing, carrying his squad 40-13-2. Here's Doc Rivers on Embiid showing out.
I don't know if the MVP thing did anything to him or not. I remember being on the other side of the night that David Robinson got the MVP and we had to play Elijah on. I was on that Spur team. That didn't go well for us. Tonight, you felt like that was Joel.
Joel Embiid has had a great year. He's been MVP for our team. Obviously, we get to the finals, and that's the goal for our team. Go get the MVP there.
Perk, who's going to win this series?
The Hawks. The Hawks. Look, the Hawks did what they were supposed to do, Molly. They went down to Philly. Now they're going back to Club ATL, okay? Lemon pepper Lou wings are going to be served all throughout the arena. That crowd is going to be rocking. And look, I heard Stephen A. yesterday talking about how the Suns arena is electrifying, how the fans are involved, and how they're the sixth man. Well, guess what? I was involved in a series where we had to play the Atlanta Hawks back in 2008 when we won the championship. When I won the championship with the Boston Celtics, and we could not win a game in there. Okay, we could not win a game in there. By the way, Molly, I think the last 12 games, including the postseason of this season, the Hawks are 12-0, I believe. It's a hard environment to play in. Role players are going to elevate their game at home. Trae Young is going to play better at home. I have the Hawks winning this series in 6.
Yeah, no, I got to take your word for it because I see Memphis is still lighting the world on fire. Oh, wait a minute. That didn't work out. What else? Who else have you had? I'm waiting for you to get one right. Look, the Hawks are very good. I'm not disputing what you're saying about why you're picking them. But I'll tell you this. The Sixers have the best record in the conference for a reason, because they were the best team this year, especially with Embiid healthy. Now I want to get to Embiid. The losing that first game, which I put on Doc because he went to that all-bench unit and he played them all together, no starters, and they got killed. Stephen A. tried to tell me, well, they're not very deep compared to the Hawks, and the Hawks played a fast pace, etc., but the all-bench unit got killed. And to me, that wasted 39 points by a dude playing on a torn meniscus. You can't waste that. On a guy playing on a torn meniscus, 280 pounds, you're going to waste 39 points? But it turns out the next night he drops 40. No, you're not. This is just what Embiid does. At a certain point, we just got to realize this is who he is. That's why, had he played in more games, because he had health issues to worry about, had he played in more games, he'd have been the MVP. Because let's be clear, Jokic is the MVP because Embiid, and he is the MVP. Jokic is the MVP. But that's because Embiid missed games. If Embiid played a full season, he'd have been the MVP. Oh, he would have been the MVP. It was that, but he was the best player in the league from the time the season started until the end. The only dude who played better, it was James Harden when Harden got to the Nets, but he missed too many games. So number one is Embiid is not going to stop scoring 39 and 40 points. You can't stop him from doing that. He's a monster. Number two, Doc went away from the all-bench unit. Now how many minutes the all-bench unit played last night? 0. He always had at least one starter in the game. And number three, Shake Milton. Shake Milton, who went from like a Sixers hero to unplayable. Doc stayed believing in him. Shake stayed ready. And when it mattered, this dude came out and could not miss. The Sixers have the best player in this series. They are a great defensive team. They have a championship coach, and they're going to win the series.
See, Max, this is why you need your basketball court revoked and taken away from you. And this is why I know that you wasn't watching the game last night. If you were watching the game last night, the Hawks kept making runs. The Philadelphia will go up by double figures. All of a sudden, the Hawks will make a run and bring it into 4. I mean, the arena was so quiet in there last night. right before the end of the third quarter, when Shake Milton hit that buzzer beater at the end of the third, right?
Yep.
Then the fans erupted, okay? And then all of a sudden, the role players started playing better. Shake Milton, the crowd brought the best out of the role players. Dwight Howard started being the beast on the glass. All of a sudden, you looked up, and guess what? In the first 5 minutes, the score in the fourth quarter was 16-4. Due to what your bitch had brought to the table. So I'm watching the game last night, and it goes back to my point of when I keep giving you free game, when I should be sending you my cash app and charging you, when I be telling you role players step up at home because fans help role players elevate their games. And that's what happened.
The best players determine the series, in fact. Yeah. Like you put the emphasis on role players, but the best players determine the series. That's why all the championships are won by Magic and Bird and Kareem and Jordan and LeBron. That's why those guys got all the championships.
All right,
and guess who the best player in the series is? Joel Embiid. By far.
Speaking of role players, Philly's bench was scoreless in the first half. They put up 26 in the second. I want to ask you this, though, Kendrick. It's all fun talking about this series, fun and games until you meet up with the Nets. Now, I know Harden's banged up. Can either of these teams even compete with them?
No, not the way that Kevin Durant is playing right now. And look, I was the guy that picked the Bucks to win in 7. I was wrong. I let the world fool me. I let people like Max tell me how great of a player Giannis was and how much PER mattered instead of me actually watching the damn game myself and seeing that Giannis really just don't have the skill set to get them over the hump. But that's another story. But if I'm looking at this Philadelphia 76ers team and Atlanta Hawks team, I love the way that both of them compete. Both of them have superstars. But Kevin Durant right now is the best player on the damn planet. And he has a certified Robin that's playing off the charts right now in Kyrie Irving. And right now, I don't see no team in the Eastern Conference stopping this Brooklyn Nets team, even without James Harden.
First of all, the nerve of you. You actually tried to turn that around and say people like Max Kellerman talked me into Giannis? Wasn't it? Because we don't just do this on this show, Molly. We do this on the Max Kellerman show on ESPN Radio, 2 p.m. Eastern, Perk and me. Wasn't it I who was telling you that if the Nets are healthy, they're going, because you were saying a healthy Nets team was going to lose to the Bucks. I was telling you if the Nets were healthy, not only would they win, not a team in the NBA, including the Lakers when healthy, would take them 7 games. No one was going to take them 7. Look what just happened without James Harden. It turns out Blake Griffin can still dunk. Not only dunk, but put a dude like Giannis on a poster. It turns out Blake can still get a double-double as a third or fourth option. KD is playing like KD, like an MVP. Kyrie is playing out of his mind. Blake looks like Blake Griffin again. Joe Harris still one of the best shooters in the league. I mean, if they had James Harden, it would compete with the Nets like any team ever. Who's going to compete with them?
Max, you know what? It's hard for me to take anything that you're saying right now seriously, okay? Because you are the true definition of a trader. You traded your back on the New York Knicks. Okay, last year you were preaching when you and I were on First Take talking about MVP candidates, right? And I was telling you LeBron should win it. And you was on there preaching about how good of a player Giannis is, and he has a PER of Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he's so valuable to the team. You remember that, Max Kellerman? And
I do.
By the way, you talking about the Brooklyn Nets. You're talking about the Brooklyn Nets right now, but you were the same one that said the Brooklyn Nets go as far as James Harden goes, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't James Harden the most valuable player on this team?
Yeah.
Wasn't he the best player
in your eyes? That's before I knew Blake Griffin was still Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin's still Blake Griffin, apparently.
But you was wrong about that. And so what I'm saying is, I'm not talking about the Giannis situation and me picking the Bucks right now is what you're saying right now, because you did pick the Nets. I'm talking about over the past 2 years.
Let's do it. Hold on. I'm going to answer every single one of those. The MVP in NBA is a stupid award. The fact that they give it out in the regular season, I'm on the record consistently as saying it's idiotic. There's no such thing as a regular season. Like, who cares about the regular season when 2/3 of the teams are still playing when the regular season's over, and an MVP will never come from a non-playoff team, or at least play-in team now, okay? So I hate the award to begin with, and I don't care about it until the final. However, when the question on this show is who is the regular season MVP, you can't not give it to Giannis 2 years ago. Of course he was the regular season, which I don't even like, MVP, okay? That doesn't mean I'm picking them to win. That's a totally different thing.
No.
Max, if the award was the way it should be and you waited till the end of the season to give it out, then of course it's LeBron. That's just not the way they do it. That's just not the way they do it. So when we talk about the playoffs, and you're trying to tell me this Milwaukee Bucks team, because they have the right pieces, whatever, are going to compete with the Nets with KD, James Harden, Kyrie, and now it turns out Blake and dudes like Joe Harris? Get all the way out of here with that. They can't even compete. They can't compete without James Harden.
Max, I'm not even arguing that. I'm saying people like you who were fans of Giannis convinced me. I'm blaming myself. Shame on me for following Max Kellerman. Shame on me for following all those analytics people who was praising Giannis and telling me how great of a player he was, and I fell for the
Giannis is not the problem.
I fell for it.
Giannis is not the problem.
How is he not the? What you mean? How is he not the problem, Max?
In the history of the NBA, in the history of the NBA, a great big needs another player as good as him, even if it's a big. So David Robinson had Tim Duncan, but usually it's a non-big. Shaq could not win with a prime Penny. Not good enough. And Penny was amazing. He needed a prime Kobe. He needed a prime Wade. Kareem could only ever win with Oscar or Magic. So don't tell me Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton are enough for Giannis. Give Giannis someone like him. Put Giannis and Luka together, I'll show you something.
Max,
KD has that.
Max,
KD's got Kyrie.
Excuse me. Let me get in here, Max. You don't think Giannis needs to be more physical?
He does, but he's not. The problem is the way you can defend Giannis, because you don't have a guy who can get his own shot and hit it and hook up his teammates at an all-time great level, which is what you need to win in the NBA. Renders Giannis much less effective. The things that he can normally do, he will not be able to do. It's not an excuse for poor play. It's an explanation for why the Bucks
That's
are
what you're doing.
Their supporting cast is not good enough.
That's what you're doing. You're making excuses for Giannis for having lack of skill and KD showing them up. By the way, not only did Giannis win the MVP, I thought he was the defensive player of the year. Yeah. Right? He is 7 foot. He is athletic. Why is he guarding KD? Why is he not stopping KD from getting whatever he wants? KD had 32 points on 16 shots. Are you kidding me? The defensive player of the year? The guy that's supposed to be able to sit down and lock people up?
Wasn't the score 125-86? Yeah, that's bad.
It was like 123-70 something at some point.
And Harden didn't even play. I mean, come on. Step your game up. All right, a no-show for required minicamp, making it the first mandatory offseason event the MVP will have ever missed in his 16-year career, and it won't be cheap either. Rodgers is subject to more than $93,000 in fines if he does not show up for the entire 3-day camp. His teammates are hopeful he'll return, but also support and respect his decision. They stand with Rodgers. As for his coach, here's Matt LaFleur.
Anytime you're talking about any player on your football team, you'd love everybody to be here. And so, it's certainly, it is what it is, man. I'm not going to get into my conversations with Aaron and the communication. And I think, I'm naturally optimistic, but, again, we'll take it day by day and just do whatever we can to help remedy this situation.
If there's ever a wonder of, he's lost a teammate or something because of all this come out, like he knows where I stand. I'll stand on the mountain and scream on the mountaintop, that I got his back. And, it's not like I'm saying, forget the front office. Like, I don't respect what they have going on. I'm just saying I back my guy up.
His teammates certainly have his back. That's all I know. Now we need to bring in another champion, Booger McFarland. No, go ahead.
That was like Mwah! That double talk, that coach double talk was so good. Take it day by day. It is what it is. Anytime you'd like to have every player. Oh, man, I don't envy LaFleur in that situation, but that was some good double talk.
Let's just get every cliche in there. Perk, I'm going to start with you. Did these comments help or hurt Aaron Rodgers?
They help Aaron Rodgers. It just shows what type of teammate he is. It shows what type of guy he is. When you have teammates coming out and supporting you like this, knowing the situation, knowing that you having a certain type of beef within the organization, it speaks volumes on Aaron Rodgers. And see, that's what a lot of people on the outside world don't understand, because they look at sports as an entertainment, but they forget that inside those locker rooms, this is a job. This is guys that you work with, you form a brotherhood with. I had a similar situation when I was in Oklahoma City with James Harden, when he was a young James Harden. He was ready to lead the team. We had just went to the finals. I was mad at him at the moment for wanting to leave and go have his own team and make all the money in the world. I was so mad at him that I didn't talk to him. I sent him a text telling him how he made the wrong decision. And I had to think about it. 2 months later, I called him. I told him how proud I was of him, because I had lost reality at the moment. And I had to realize that, hey, why would I stop my brother? Why would I stop my teammate for going out there and doing what he's supposed to do? And that's to make the most money that he possibly can and go take over a franchise. So I applaud this. This make Aaron Rodgers look good.
These comments help the Packers, or at least they're leading the Packers to water. I don't know if they can make them drink, but they're setting the stage for the Packers to help themselves. What this shows is that Aaron Rodgers' most important teammates, offensive tackle, lead wideout, love him. They want him to stay. They got that bond, and they want him to stay. They know how great he is. They support him. That's different than if Aaron Rodgers' most important teammates came out and weren't very publicly supporting him, right? Then Rodgers would be like, oh, yeah, of course I don't want to stay here. I've made the right choice in my mind. No, what this does to me, potentially, maybe, does it leave the door a little bit open for the Packers? Where, hey, this is a place he might want to play? See, what has to happen now, they set this set the table. Now do the Packers want to eat, or at least try? Because the Packers can now go to Rodgers and be like, look, we were wrong. They got to do the Happy Gilmore, right? You're tall, I'm short, you're good looking, I'm not very attractive, you're right, I'm wrong. They have to do all that, and they have to do it publicly. Why is it that all these teams and executives and front offices who want players to stay in their place and understand professionalism and rank, because it's a military game, you have to humble yourself and everything, when it's time for them to show humility, they can't do it, right? Why not publicly show some humility, humble yourself, beg Rodgers to stay? You made a mistake, own it. His teammates just helped you. Hey, we love you, Aaron Rodgers. Now the front office has got to show that love, and maybe it gives him a chance to stay. And, Boog, I'll give it to you like this. He's going to be the decider. Rodgers is going to be. If he decides he wants to get traded, there's nothing they can do. Change his mind. Understand that you're not making the decisions, he is, and do your best to change his thinking. His teammates are helping you.
Well, I don't think it helps or hurts. I think it's expected. I think, Kendrick, you know this. When you step on that field of battle with your teammate, you're always going to have his back. And we all understand it's a business. We know that from a business standpoint, our money and our family and how we provide for our family is the most important thing. And every man wants every other player to get as much money as he can. Now, from a business standpoint, the quarterback position is a little bit different. When you move up in the first round to draft a quarterback, you're saying not only is this guy someone when we coveted, then we're going to accentuate and accelerate his progression and his play to get on the field. And so I think Aaron Rodgers took that personally. I don't think there's any way that the Packers can publicly humble themselves, Max, except one way. And that's really simple. They're going to have to trade Jordan Love, give Aaron Rodgers a new contract, And before you say this sounds crazy, think about it this way. Jordan Love is going into year 2. If Aaron Rodgers plays 4 more years, that's going to take up the entire 5-year rookie contract of Jordan Love. So they'll never get a chance to see him play anyway. And so if you want one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time to be on your team for the next 4 years, then let's go ahead and move on from Jordan Love because he's not going to play anyway. The only way they can make this right, quote unquote, to your way, Max, publicly, is by making an action. And that action is trade Love, give Aaron Rodgers a new contract. I don't even think they have to fire Brian Gutekunst, as a lot of people think they do. Because Aaron Rodgers, to me, now when you start firing people in the organization, now that's taking it a little bit too far. I don't think they have to do that. But as far as the teammates coming out saying, hey, man, we support your back, it doesn't change the situation. Because as a player, and if I'm a GM, I know what the players are going to do. Players are going to side with players. That's what we do because we respect the grind. We respect how hard we have to battle against each other. And so I expected Devontae and David Bakhtiari to come out and say what they said. So it's expected for me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's actually a good idea with Jordan Love. Sorry, Perk.
No, I got a question for you, Max. So are you telling me that those guys went up there and spoke good about Aaron Rodgers because they had a hidden agenda? Are you telling me that it wasn't genuine? That's what you're telling me?
No, I'm not saying
me listening to the interview. No, okay, so because from me listening to the interviews, from me listening to their comments about Aaron Rodgers, they're saying we support our brother on whatever he decides to do. That don't mean they didn't say we support our brother because we want him back with the Packers organization. Well, what you just said is it helps the organization because now they're coming out saying we publicly want you. No, I didn't get that. I got 2 brothers, 2 teammates that love Aaron Rodgers as a person and said we support whatever decision you do, whether you stay here in Green Bay, whether you go to the New Orleans Saints or wherever you may go, we support you because that's how much respect we have for you.
Right. We support any decision you make because he's the deciding.
Same thing.
His teammates, right. This is what I'm saying. I'm not saying they have an agenda that the front office put them up to it. I'm saying with his teammates understand Aaron Rodgers is going to make the decision. What the team can't tolerate, and Boog, I brought up Le'Veon Bell yesterday. Now, I know it's he's a running back, but the Steelers wanted Le'Veon Bell so much they said, here's a 3-year contract. Le'Veon said the money's not right. They said, we're going to franchise you. He said, okay, I'll play, but you have to agree not to franchise me again. They said, no, for that, sit out. In other words, we want you so much, we want you for 3 years. Okay, you can have me for 1 year. No, in that case, we'll take 0 years. Because the more important to us than that is that we show everybody we're in charge. You don't make the decision, we do. That's true almost always in the NFL, except nowadays, if you have a special quarterback, that dude's going to call the shots, like superstars do in the NBA. If you have Tom Brady, if you have Aaron Rodgers, if you have Patrick Mahomes, you have to keep those guys happy because they're the ones who are going to make the choice. I don't care what the contract says. We all know they're going to make the choice. His teammates understand it. As soon as the front office does, they'll have a fighting chance to keep him.
And Max, the only way the front office is going to save face in this situation anyway is if they wind up with Aaron Rodgers on the team. Any situation where Aaron Rodgers either retires, doesn't play, is traded, then the front office loses. And it really doesn't matter. Not only is the front office going to lose with Aaron Rodgers, they're going to lose with the fans, and they're also going to lose with those same teammates, David Bakhtiari, Devontae Adams, because then they're going to be looking around, hey, why do I want to be here? I don't have a quarterback. So the front office is going to lose on all 3 levels, fans, players, and with Aaron Rodgers. So I think Green Bay is in a dire situation. I get it. You're the team. You're the billion-dollar organization. But if you were to ask me right now in this high-stakes game of chicken, the Packers can ill afford to lose, and they are very close to losing the quarterback, the team, and the fan base. Because without Aaron Rodgers, none of the rest of that matters.
Yeah. All I know is if he retires, he forgoes $70 million. That ain't happening. Boog will be back with us in just a little bit. When we come back, to win MVP, 40 names were called before him. I love a good underdog story. He trails only Wilt Chamberlain for the most assists per game by a center. Only Russell Westbrook led his team in more points, rebounds, and assists per game, and that was 4 years ago. The Joker flattered, but he's focused on evening the series with the Suns, where they were beat down in Game 1. Game 2 tonight in Phoenix. Perk, who is more important to Game 2? The Joker or DeAndre Ayton?
It's DeAndre Ayton. And look, we all know that Jokic is the MVP and he's a superstar, and I get all that he's a special talent. But DeAndre Ayton has came to light, and he's found his groove. And he's not afraid of big Jokic, okay? He's dominating him on both ends of the floor, especially in Game 1. He dominated him. He dominated him where he held Jokic to 10 to 23 from the field, only 22 points. And on the other end, he went at him. He had 20 and 10 himself. And when I'm looking at DeAndre Ayton, he's playing with a certain type of tenacity. He's playing with a certain type of edge. And you know where that edge comes from? It comes from CP3. It comes from Jay Crowder putting that key in his back. And by the way, let me give credit to one of the assistant coaches that is sitting on alongside Monty Williams, Coach Mark Bryant. MB is what we call him. One of the most underrated coaches in the game today that takes a lot of time with DeAndre Ayton, putting that dog in him, developing his skill set. So DeAndre Ayton is the most important tonight, because if he dominates like he did in Game 1, the Suns will win in great fashion again, like in Game 2, like they did in Game 1.
Most important player is obviously Jokic. I agree with you about Ayton's excellent play. And by the way, he was good against AD. And, it's ironic that coming into these playoffs, it's like, well, the Suns won issue.
We're not talking about AD.
We're
not talking about AD.
Right, I'm talking about AD. Don't worry about it. You had your chance. Now you just got to sit there and figure out how you're going to lose another argument to me. Look, the bottom line is Ayton was green, right? Too green to deal with AD. Did a good job. Too green to deal with Jokic. Did a good job. Matter of fact, what's he going to do about Jokic's passing? Well, Jokic looked tired in the second half and actually was not as effective a passer. I tip my hat to DeAndre Ayton, who you credit for dominating Jokic, who wound up with 20 points and Jokic wound up with 22 points, 23 points, whatever it was. Right, that's dominating Jokic. You come away with the same numbers as Jokic, you dominated him. No, he played better than we anticipated, and Jokic played worse than we anticipated, largely because of Ayton. Ayton had a good game. That does not make him the most important player in the series. Andre Iguodala was not the most important player in the series against the Cavs when he won Finals MVP. LeBron James was. Andre Iguodala's the point of Iguodala's play was to try to limit LeBron James as much as possible. You know why? Because LeBron James was the most important player, and Jokic is the most important player here. He was the MVP of the regular series. He has, so far up till right now, been the best player in every series he's played in. He will likely be the best player in this series. If you want to say DeAndre Ayton's job is to make sure Jokic is not the best player in this series, and therefore he's important, fine. But his importance is linked to the fact that he is going up against the most important player in the series. And by the way, I don't expect Jokic to be an ineffective passer for the rest of this series either, Perk.
Why not? I mean, listen, what we saw against the Denver Nuggets against the Portland Trail Blazers, let me remind you, okay? The Portland Trail Blazers had the worst defense in the entire league. This is a new ball game right here. And when I talk about Ayton and I talk about him dominating the matchup, and you bring up points talking about, Jokic had 23 and Ayton had 20. How did he get dominated? Well, I'm going to tell you, Max, because Jokic had 22 points on 23 shots. Ayton had 20 points on 13 shots. That means he was more efficient. And you know what else is going on? Now, you know why Jokic looked tired? Because he's involved in pick and rolls. Because he has to now be worried and guard DeAndre Ayton, because they're featuring him in the offense. It's a big difference. This is why I say Ayton is more important, because now Jokic can't relax on the defensive end. He got to be held accountable along with carrying the load offensively. Of course he's going to look tired, Max. That's why DeAndre Ayton has to continue to play with that tenacity and the energy that he played with in Game 1.
DeAndre Ayton was the number 1 overall pick in a draft with Luka and Trey, and you can't say he's a bust. No way. Like, he's a good player who's getting better. And the reason I bring up AD is because the matchups for him are AD and then Jokic, and you're expecting but instead, no, it's for the other guy. I'm not discounting him. What I'm saying is you're not going to stop Jokic all series. Jokic has too many ways to beat you, even if he is fatigued at times because he's got to play defense on a guy who can score. He's being defended by an athletic young guy who is motivated by Chris Paul. All that's true, but you're not going to stop over the course of the series a guy who can pass as well as anyone who's ever played the position, and most who haven't in the history of basketball, from a guy who's a low down low, who can score, who can shoot the three, who's always looking for his teammates. And by the way, yes, at home you're going to have an advantage, but they're going to have the same advantage at Denver. Jokic is the MVP for a reason. He's the best player in the series. He's the most important. And the entire game plan for Phoenix has to be, what are we going to do about him? By the way, the more help he gets, the better. Porter Jr. going to play? That's good. Barton maybe coming back? That's good because they're thinned out in the backcourt. Jokic is the most important player in the series.
All right.
Well, Max, what you fail to realize is, and I'm going to repeat this to you again, this is a different ball club, okay? This is not Portland where you could get backdoor cuts and get easy baskets and they're playing pickup ball. This is the Phoenix Suns that are locked in, that plays boxes and elbows, that know how to throw different defensive coverages at you. Did you see in game 1 real quick, Molly? Max, did you see in game 1 when Jokic started, a cut was there, he tried to make a cross-court pass and Mikal Bridges was right there to intercept it? That's the difference. This Phoenix Suns is a detailed type team.
Yep.
Yeah, they're really good.
Jokic shot 6 for 15 when guarded by DeAndre Ayton in game 1. We will leave it there, fellas. Will had an interesting story about Kevin Durant yesterday. That was on Get Up. It got some traction. If you didn't see it, take a listen.
A couple years ago, we're at a holiday party, and I came on this show, and I did a segment with you, and I said we had Anthony Davis and we had Kevin Durant. Yeah. I said, you know what, Anthony Davis and KD would have a baby. The similarities, physicality-wise, would be like Giannis. Yeah. Right? I go to the holiday party. Kevin Durant comes up to me and says, yo, don't you ever compare me to Giannis. Don't you ever compare me to Giannis. I said, KD, what are you talking about? You know, I was just talking about similarities, physicality-wise, size, length. He's like, no, don't you ever compare me to Giannis. So when I see that matchup, you know what that matchup says to me? That's something personal for Kevin Durant. That's who he's attacking each and every day, because that's been in his brain, because people have talked about Giannis being on the same level. That's the kind of intensity you're seeing in this rivalry.
All right, Katie tweeted this in response. Mans will do anything to advance their careers in this media expletive, wanting to be accepted by an industry that will dispose of you whenever they please. Keep me out of all that corny expletive talk, who's better and legacy and all that dumb expletive. I don't even talk like that. Jay Will responded this morning to Kevin Durant on KJZ.
Number one, I stand by my story. Number two, I was probably wrong for sharing a personal story, but that's what we do. That's what we do here on our show. And it was meant as a compliment for Kevin Durant to show that there were levels to this and that he was actually right. There are different levels between KD and Giannis. I sat there yesterday. I'm not going to get into this whole spat back and forth on social media, tit for tat. I don't live my life that way. I rise above that. I don't attack people's character. Reached out to his team, talked to Rich Kleiman about it. I got nothing but love for KD. I want them to win a championship. You guys have known I'm from Jersey. I've always been a Nets fan. I love how it translates to Brooklyn. And that's the end of that for me.
All right, Kendrick, I'm going to start with you, but just one question, guys. I thought that Jay Will and KD were boys, so I was just curious. I didn't get to ask Jay Will this, if they fell out before this, or was this just like everything was good and then this response happened? So I'd be curious to know that detail. I don't know if either of you do. I'll start with you. Perk, is this fair or foul?
It's fair, but Molly, Max, whatever happens in the boardroom stays in the boardroom, you know? I'm just asking. Whatever happened to that. But at the end of the day, look, it's fair, okay? KD has the right to speak out, okay? He can say what he wants. He has the right to respond. And look, it's a few issues I have with this problem overall with Jay and KD. The issue that I have with Jay Will is that he was right. He was giving KD props. But the code is that if you're going to share a personal story, okay, from one of your brothers that you talked about behind closed doors, one-on-one, or something that was said in private, you need to call that person and get their consent and make sure that it's okay to share that story before you share. That's the only problem I had with Jay Will. And whether it was a lie or not, I don't know. I'm not here to decide who's telling the truth. I really don't care, okay? But as far as with KD, if you're going to respond, put an address on it. Address who you talking to. Because if I wasn't a person that didn't know what was going on, I would have thought that he was talking to the media in general, right? And I had another problem with the tweet. When he said the part in the middle where he was like, you know, you're trying to do, I guess, so much to impress, you know, basically an industry that will dispose of you when they're done with you. Well, that's every job in the world, KD. You know, that's every job in the world. That's not just ESPN. Hell, it happens in the NBA. If you're not doing your job, if you're not bringing to the table, if you're not trying to be good, if you're not trying to be great, they'll dispose of you. If you're in Walmart and you're the general manager and you're making sure that people are held, not making sure people are held accountable, and a cereal box get put on the paper towel aisle, you know what? They'll dispose of you as the general manager because you're not holding people accountable. That's the only problem that I had with Jay Will, for us with him putting it out without asking KD and getting his consent. And that's the only two problems I had with KD. Put an address on it, and then on top of that, disposal like that just don't happen in ESPN. That happens all over the United States in every job that every person that has a job.
It was foul of KD, period. It was foul of KD. Jay made a mistake. No, make it foul. Jay made an honest mistake. Let me tell you what I mean. Jay Williams, off camera, we see him a lot at the Seaport. I talk to Jay off camera all the time. Jay Williams stumps for KD behind the scenes. He's always slipping KD into debates about who's the best, where should he be, GOAT, all that kind of stuff. He's always promoting a KD agenda, not because he's trying to trade on some relationship or anything like that. There's nothing in it for him other than he really believes in the dude. He thinks he's the best, it seems to me. And he's always upping KD in private conversations. If you're just kind of talking to Jay Williams, he's upping him. Now, what he said was not done out of malice. It was not done to be opportunistic. He was wrong to share a story, Perk, as you said, without clearing it. But it wasn't done with bad intentions. The remedy for that, if you're KD, is pick up the phone and say, yo, what'd you do that for? And then you have it out behind the scenes, right? And you figure it out. You don't put him on blast. For example, I just shared a story with you about Jay Will that happens behind the scenes. Obviously, I didn't do it with malice. I did it to make Jay Will look good because I believe he deserves to in this situation, at least his intentions. If Jay has a problem with that, yo, Max, that stuff we talk about off camera. Don't share that without talking to me about it. I would expect him to approach me about it, not to put me on blast publicly. Now, KD put it in, he didn't use Jay Will's name. So you're saying, hey, put a name to it. Maybe KD feels like by not using his name, he's kind of not really going all out on Jay. But the point was, sometimes you might divulge something publicly that you shouldn't. Oh, damn, I really shouldn't have said that. We're not talking about a retired player. I didn't even consider that he's kind of downing Giannis there. Maybe he doesn't want me to say that out loud. And you work it out behind the scenes. The difference is intention. Jay did not, his intent clearly was not malicious. KD got mad and came at him when that also should have been handled privately.
Max, this is what you fail to realize, okay? KD came out and he said it was a lie, okay? He didn't want his name attached to it. Because you know what can happen is that people around the league, guys around the league, we don't know the relationship of Giannis and KD. We don't know if they're cooling out outside of basketball. And you know what can happen is Giannis can say, oh, I didn't know KD felt this way about me. And you're wrong, Max, because before we come on First Take, before you do the Max Kellerman show, what do you have, right? A production meeting. What do you have? Preparation, right? So you know what you're about to go on television and say. You know the topics that you're about to address. So don't come on here telling me that it's a mistake that you just...
Listen, Rook,
I'm not going to sit up here and come...
You're good on the radio, right?
Max.
Let me tell you about radio, especially when you're doing a 3-hour show. Yes, there's preparation, but you have to leave room to improvise. You're talking, you're in a conversation, you go where the conversation takes you. Something may come to mind that you hadn't prepared. You're sharing a little insight. That stuff, the question is, when you do it, did you do it recklessly? Did you do it maliciously? Did you do it with the intent to lie or harm? Or was it a mistake? Clearly, Jay Will's was a simple mistake that could have been remedied behind the scenes. That was not the route KD chose to take. And he's doing it to a dude who only ever ups him.
Max, are you serious right now? He started off by telling, and I love Jay Will, great friend of mine. So is KD. But did you not hear him start off on the get up with Greeny? And he started off and he said, hey, Greeny, can Uncle Jay tell you a story real quick? So he walked into the studio with this story on his mind. And what I'm trying to tell you, Max, is when you're dealing with this type of, when we're dealing in the media as a former player, right? I'm friends with a lot of guys right now that are still playing the game. I'm friends with a lot of GMs that are still GMing and coaching. And some of the conversations that we have, I would never put out there in the media.
But there's a gray area with some of it, Perk. Some of it, obviously, you wouldn't, and some of it you can get caught slipping. That's what happened. Jay just got caught slipping. And by the way, let me ask you a question point blank. Do you think he did it with malice, or was it an honest mistake? Did Jay do that maliciously, or was it an honest mistake?
Max, it wasn't an honest mistake because his story was so laid out. He stopped.
He's saying it's hold on. What he's saying is it's premeditated. That's what Perk is saying. It didn't just slip out.
Even if it was
there's no malice, but he thought about, I'm going into studio, I'm going to tell this story. I have not cleared this with Kevin Durant. No. There was a plan behind it.
Even if it was premeditated, I'm still saying it was an honest mistake. Even if, in other words, Jay didn't think, I don't believe. Maybe you do, Perk. That's the answer I want. I have this story about KD. KD's not going to want me to share it. I'm going to share it anyway. I think he just thought, I have a story about KD that's relevant. And then after the fact was like, oh, damn, KD didn't want me to share that once KD made that public. The difference is, I believe one dude made an honest mistake, premeditated or not. The other dude got mad and put him on blast publicly.
Molly, can I ask you a question before we go?
Yeah.
Right? You're married to one of my good friends in Jalen Rose, right?
Yeah.
And he also has a lot of brothers that are still in the NBA that are coaching, that are GMs, right? He knows that certain stories he can't come out and say, or if he do decide to tell a story, don't he pick up the phone and call those people and get those permissions before he go on national television?
So you believe that Jay knew? So you believe Jay knew KD wouldn't want him sharing, and he shared anyway?
I'm asking Molly a simple question.
I know as for Jalen, in terms of evaluating guys, he always wants to be fair. So regardless if it's his friend, someone he has a relationship with, if there's criticism regarding his game, he's going to be fair across the board. Everyone's fair game, equal opportunist there. But as far as personal stories, Jalen wouldn't share without approval, but that's just how he is. He's very tight-lipped and very. All right, Joe, let's run through some NFC East storylines as the season nears. Dak Prescott enters the season with a hefty new contract, something to prove. McCarthy said he should be a full go by next month. Jalen Hurts will get a chance to earn the starting gig with Philly's new coaching staff. In 4 starts last season, he was last in completion rate and took a league-high 59 hits. The Giants are hoping to snap a 4-year playoff drought, which ties the team's longest since the 1970s. New York is 27th in points scored since drafting Daniel Jones in 2019. Fitzmagic hits D.C. for the 2021 season. Ryan Fitzpatrick shared some fun facts about himself on day one as a member of the Washington football team. And there is that photo. All right, guys, it's feeling like football season is near. A whole lot of traction around the NFL world. We bring back Booger McFarland. Booger, great to have you with us, and I want to start with you. Who is your favorite to win the NFC East this season?
With the best defense, and that's the Washington football team. And I know that goes against everything that's gone on this offseason. I love Dak Prescott. He deserved his money. Quite frankly, he deserved more. So congratulations on your contract, Dak. But Dallas may as well be called Alice because they have no D in Big D. And if you're not going to have a defense, if you're not going to be a team that can slow down any of the opposition from an offensive standpoint, then I can't pick you. The New York Giants, I like what they're doing. I love Patrick Graham and his defense. Daniel Jones, the jury's still out. But from a weapon standpoint, you add Kenny Golladay, you get Saquon Barkley back. I love what the offense can be, but I still need your quarterback to be a little better. The bottom line, Molly, and of course the Eagles are the Eagles. We really don't know what you're going to get based on Jalen Hurts, and they really don't think, or they're not showing us they want to win. And so when you add all that together, I think I know more about the Washington football team. The best defense in the division. You finally have a veteran quarterback in Fitzmagic who can pull the trigger. You have weapons, Terry McLaurin, to name one from an offensive standpoint. The running back, I love Gibson's. So overall, from a physically tough standpoint with Ron Rivera, I just think the team that I know the most about is the Washington football team. And I'm a defensive guy. And I think if you look at the Super Bowl, we saw that if you have an offensive line and you have a defense, it really doesn't matter from a quarterback standpoint. Just ask Patrick Mahomes. Your defense better be able to line up and play.
Well, Washington clearly has the best defense, and Dallas clearly has the best offense, and the Eagles are in shambles right now. But the Giants are the pick, and I admit to a big blue bias. I'm not running from that. But the Giants are the pick because the Giants don't have as good a defense as Washington, but they got a good defense, better than the other two teams. And they don't have as good an offense as Dallas, but they got a good offense. It should be better than the other two teams. And they got a coach. And they got the return of Saquon Barkley, who, by the way, as a rookie, had 2,000 yards total yards from scrimmage as a rookie. And he should be entering his prime now. That was behind a bad Giants offensive line. Now, the Giants' offensive line still not anything to write home about, but now they've played together another season. They have used draft capital on improving the line and free agent money on improving the line to where this season it should be better than at any point in recent memory, even if that only makes it low average. That's a big improvement for them. Kadarius Toney is a weapon. I just mentioned Saquon freaking Barkley, right? Look at the receivers. They bring in Golladay. Slayton's good and getting better. Never mind, Shepard and Ingram as a tight end is a real weapon. They have weapons on offense, an improving offensive line. And look at the quarterback, Daniel Jones. He actually was really good on deep throws last year. He had a bum leg, right? So on one wheel, he's not the same threat because he's a real running threat. He should be healthy this year. Year 3 is when we should see behind a real offensive line and Saquon Barkley there, his improvement. Defensively, they're already solid and should get better. In a weak division, I think they're the best balanced team. I don't believe in Fitzpatrick over the course of an entire season. I don't believe in the Cowboys defense, but I believe in Big Blue. Go Big Blue!
Well, look, I'm going to say this. I ended my relationship with the Dallas Cowboys about 2 years ago. But I'm not going to sit up here and be biased because I'm a Cardinals fan now. I'm going to give props when props due, okay? The Cowboys has the best team in the NFC East, period, point blank. You know why? Because their offense is so potent. Their defensively, they'll figure things out, Booger. But look, offensively, you have Dak Prescott, who is going to be the best quarterback in this division. You have Ezekiel Elliott, who possibly could be the best running back. We know how good he could be. He's going to come back on a mission. And let's not talk about the receiving core, right? The receiving core that they have to run and put up a lot of points, stretch the field, the deep threats, the slant routes. I could go on, but I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not about to dive in deep with you and Max because, Max, I don't even know how you could even stomach to say the word New York after you done turned your back on New York, the state of New York, so many times that you even picked the New York Giants.
Yankees, Giants, Nets. What are you talking about?
No, Lakers.
Well, right now, who's left in the playoffs?
Perk, I love what you said. Perk, you almost convinced me. But the fact of the matter is the Cowboys were 1-3 with that great offense before Dak Prescott got hurt. So that defense still has to show me something. And Max, you sound like a used car salesman trying to convince a buyer on Daniel Jones. Like you're really trying to convince me that Daniel Jones is going to be great to drive off the lot. And you know what? He'll be better. It's year 3. The tires have broken in. The engine is ready to go. It's all of a sudden going to be better. Max, don't do that, Max. Seriously. Like, you don't have to convince me. I just need to see it on the field. Like,
I think he's better than Fitzpatrick right now. I believe he's better than Fitzpatrick right now. He's never going to be Dak Prescott, but he's better than Fitzpatrick right now.
All right, Max, your lips to God's ears. I'm with you.
Come on, Daniel Jones. Danny Dimes, come on.
All right, guys, we'll leave it there. To win MVP, 40 names were called before him. I love a good underdog story. He trails only Wilt Chamberlain for the most assists per game by a center. Only Russell Westbrook led his team in more points, rebounds, and assists per game, and that was 4 years ago. The Joker flattered, but he's focused on evening the series with the Suns, where they were beat down in Game 1. Game 2 tonight in Phoenix. Perk, who is more important to Game 2, the Joker or DeAndre Ayton?
It's DeAndre Ayton. And look, we all know that Jokic is the MVP and he's a superstar, and I get all that. He's a special talent. But DeAndre Ayton has came to light, and he's found his groove. And he's not afraid of big Jokic, okay? He's dominating him on both ends of the floor, especially in Game 1. He dominated him. He dominated him where he held Jokic to 10 to 23 from the field, only 22 points. And on the other end, he went at him. He had 20 and 10 himself. And when I'm looking at DeAndre Ayton, he's playing with a certain type of tenacity. He's playing with a certain type of edge. And you know where that edge comes from? It comes from CP3. It comes from Jay Crowder putting that key in his back. And by the way, let me give credit to one of the assistant coaches that is sitting on alongside Monty Williams. Coach Mark Bryant, MB is what we call him. One of the most underrated coaches in the game today that takes a lot of time with DeAndre Ayton, putting that dog in him, developing his skill set. So DeAndre Ayton is the most important tonight, because if he dominates like he did in Game 1, the Suns will win in great fashion again, like in Game 2, like they did in Game 1.
Most important player is obviously Jokic. I agree with you about Ayton's excellent play. And by the way, he was good against AD. And, it's ironic that coming into these playoffs, it's like, well, the Suns won issue.
We're not talking about AD.
We're
not talking about AD.
Right, I'm talking about AD. Don't worry about it. You had your chance. Now you just got to sit there and figure out how you're going to lose another argument to me. Look, the bottom line is Ayton was green, right? Too green to deal with AD. Did a good job. Too green to deal with Jokic. Did a good job. Matter of fact, what's he going to do about Jokic's passing? Well, Jokic looked tired in the second half and actually was not as effective a passer. I tip my hat to DeAndre Ayton, who you credit for dominating Jokic, who wound up with 20 points and Jokic wound up with 22 points, 23 points, whatever it was. Right, that's dominating Jokic. You come away with the same numbers as Jokic, you dominated him. No, he played better than we anticipated, and Jokic played worse than we anticipated, largely because of Ayton. Ayton had a good game. That does not make him the most important player in the series. Andre Iguodala was not the most important player in the series against the Cavs when he won Finals MVP. LeBron James was. Andre Iguodala's point, the point of Iguodala's play was to try to limit LeBron James as much as possible. You know why? Because LeBron James was the most important player, and Jokic is the most important player here. He was the MVP of the regular series. He has, so far up till right now, been the best player in every series he's played in. He will likely be the best player in this series. If you want to say DeAndre Ayton's job is to make sure Jokic is not the best player in this series, and therefore he's important, fine. But his importance is linked to the fact that he is going up against the most important player in the series. And by the way, I don't expect Jokic to be an ineffective passer for the rest of this series either, Perk.
Why not? I mean, listen, what we saw against the Denver Nuggets against the Portland Trail Blazers, let me remind you, okay? The Portland Trail Blazers had the worst defense in the entire league. This is a new ball game right here. And when I talk about Ayton and I talk about him dominating the matchup, and you bring up points talking about, Jokic had 23 and Ayton had 20. How did he get dominated? Well, I'm going to tell you, Max, because Jokic had 22 points on 23 shots. Ayton had 20 points on 13 shots. That means he was more efficient. And you know what else is going on? Now, why Jokic look tired? Because he's involved in pick and rolls. Because he has to now be worried and guard DeAndre Ayton, because they're featuring him in the offense. It's a big difference. This is why I say Ayton is more important, because now Jokic can't relax on the defensive end. He got to be held accountable along with carrying the load offensively. Of course he's going to look tired, Max. That's why DeAndre Ayton has to continue to play with that tenacity and the energy that he played with in game one.
DeAndre Ayton was the number 1 overall pick in a draft with Luka and Trey, and you can't say he's a bust. No way. Like, he's a good player who's getting better, and the reason I bring up AD is because the matchups for him are AD and then Jokic, and you're expecting but instead, no, it's for the other guy. I'm not discounting him. What I'm saying is you're not going to stop Jokic all series. Jokic has too many ways to beat you, even if he is fatigued at times because he's got to play defense on a guy who can score. He's being defended by an athletic young guy who is motivated by Chris Paul. All that's true, but you're not going to stop over the course of the series a guy who can pass as well as anyone who's ever played the position, and most who haven't in the history of basketball, from a guy who's a low down low, who can score, who can shoot the three, who's always looking for his teammates. And by the way, yes, at home you're going to have an advantage, but they're going to have the same advantage at Denver. Jokic is the MVP for a reason. He's the best player in the series. He's the most important. And the entire game plan for Phoenix has to be, what are we going to do about him? By the way, the more help he gets, the better. Porter Jr. going to play? That's good. Barton maybe coming back? That's good, because they're thinned out in the backcourt. Jokic is the most important player in the series.
All right.
Well, Max, what you fail to realize is, and I'm going to repeat this to you again, this is a different ball club, okay? This is not Portland, where you could get backdoor cuts and get easy baskets, and they're playing pickup ball. This is the Phoenix Suns that are locked in, that plays boxes and elbows, that know how to throw different defensive coverages at you. Did you see in game one, real quick, Molly? Max, did you see in game one when Jokic started, a cut was there, he tried to make a cross-court pass, and Mikal Bridges was right there to intercept it? That's the difference. This Phoenix Suns is a detailed type team.
Yep.
Yeah, they're really good.
Jokic shot 6 for 15 when guarded by DeAndre Ayton in game one. We will leave it there, fellas.